The Hutchinson Community Foundation's Legacy Society is an esteemed group of donors who have given $10,000 or more, established an endowed fund, or committed to an end-of-life gift. Listen as we join in on an interview with Pat Lemmon, a very special Legacy Society donor.
You could just kind of start out by telling me your story about who you are. Are you from here? Or?
Oh, no. I was raised in Oxford, Kansas.
Okay.
Which is a small town of about 900. Between Winfield and Wellington.
Okay, yes. I was going to say I've heard of Oxford, but yes.
And that's where I went to high school.
Mm-hmm.
Graduated. Class of 28, which is pretty small.
Yep. Does Oxford still have a school?
Yes, it does. A high school and a grade school.
Huh. Is it a 1A school?
Pardon me?
Would it still be a 1A school? 2A? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know. They've, of course, redone them, so I don't know what it is now.
Yeah.
But it's very. It's always been a very nice school and very well thought of in the community and the county and the state. So.
What were your interests when you were growing up?
Well, I'll have to say I was a tomboy, and my interest was always climbing trees or riding bicycles or punching out the boys.
I don't see that at all.
No, I didn't. I didn't punch them out, but I gave them a bad time.
Yeah. Got to keep them in line.
My brother was only 14 months younger, so he and I found a lot of things to get into.
What was your brother's name?
Dean.
When did you know you wanted to be an educator?
Practically from the beginning of going into high school.
And then what did you do after high school?
Well, may I say this, that I was very outspoken about that, and we were having a thing at school that day, and we had on jeans, which was very rare in that time, and I had on a man's shirt, and I go breezing out of the high school, and there sat the school board of this country school that was coming to look at me for the job. So I definitely thought I didn't start off very well, but they hired me.
Right out of high school.
I was 17 years
Oh my
old
gosh.
when I started teaching.
Oh my gosh.
And I taught in a rural school, 4 miles west and 3 south, and I had first graders, third graders, fifth graders, eighth grader.
And was it
All in a rural school.
All in the rural school, and you had them all at one time?
Absolutely. And every day you had to plan for 5 different grades.
Imagine that.
How many kids were in each grade?
Well, I had 2 little first grade girls and 1 8th grade girl, and that's 3, and the rest of them were in the interim grades.
Wow. So how did you facilitate learning in all those different age groups?
Well, first of all, you plan math for all 5 grades, and then you taught it based on the level that they were.
So they all got to hear a little bit of each.
Oh, they always listen, yes.
instruction.
Did they teach each other too?
Well, sure, but then their biggest deal was that they heard the presentation and the discussion of everybody that was in the room.
I think we could use more of that today.
I know. I think so too. That kind of
Because kids are learning at all different phases.
That's really neat.
But the whole thing is, at 17, there was never a thought of what you could do that. I mean, you're just so self-assured that nothing is too big for you to do.
Once you got into the classroom, were you prepared? Like, did you, I know, But looking back on it, were you as prepared as you thought you were?
Of course. Why would you think anything else?
Actually, I don't think anything
You're
else.
going in there to teach 5 grades, so you had to have a little bit of spunk.
Yeah. I know you, so I don't think you were unprepared, but...
So when those students finished 8th grade, did they go to Oxford High School?
That's correct.
So you were kind of within your own community's school
Right.
system.
4 miles west and 3 south, 7 miles from town. And this is kind of interesting, I think. My 8th grade girl still sends me a Christmas card.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
I don't know where some of
But
the
you
other...
really weren't that much older than her.
Oh.
Think about it, yeah. You're almost peers.
So,
what, I don't know, I think it's really interesting about wearing, the fact that you felt uncomfortable wearing jeans. Of course, that would be uncomfortable in any job interview today, but can you talk a little bit about the expectations of just you at that time period and how that's changed? I just think that's fascinating.
well, we really didn't wear jeans hardly ever. But we were having kind of come as you are day at school. So unfortunately, that happened to be the day that school board came to see me. And so that's how come I happened to be dressed like that.
It didn't have any ill effect on whether they hired you or not.
No, I got the job,
Yeah.
so that was
Yeah.
pretty neat.
Yeah. I just had heard,
Would you like to know what I got for a salary?
yeah, that would be interesting, because I know what my mom's first teaching salary was in 1979.
$170 a month.
Huh.
Well, it's, more than $1,000 a year.
And I lived at home with my parents and drove out to school and back every day.
Did most of the students walk or ride horses?
No, some of them, their parents brought them because they lived a mile or so from school. There was one family that lived about a quarter of a mile, and those kids walked, and so they were walking and riding. Their parents brought them. So.
And how long were you at that school?
2 years.
2 years. And then what happened after that?
Well, since I didn't have a college degree, I had to go every summer and teach every winter in order to do that until I got my degree, which took me, I said I was a slow learner, 10 years. But I don't think you need to repeat that I was a slow learner. But anyway, so I went every summer and taught every winter. And when I got it down to where I could finish in 1 year, I took that year off and went to Emporia and got my bachelor's degree. And then I did my master's at the University of Wyoming.
Okay.
Were your first 9 years through ESU?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I took some night. There were several of us that drove from Argonia, where I was teaching, to Wichita and went to night classes at Friends University.
Okay.
And when you were teaching at Argonia, what grade level were you at there?
I taught the 4th grade the first year, and then I moved up and had the 5th grade from then on. I will just, this isn't for this, but this past weekend there were 2 boys that I had in the 4th grade who were here and played golf with me and their wives, and one of them lives in Utah and the other one lives in California, and so they came. And
How do you keep in touch with all those students?
well, they keep in touch with me, and they called and said they were going to be around and could they come, and
That's pretty special.
yes, it is.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, of course they could.
That's really cool.
So we had a real neat time together.
I bet. So did they stay over in Hutch then while they were?
They, one was staying in Wichita and the other one stayed at Argonia.
Oh, okay.
And just drove up for the day, and we had golf and lunch, and
There's really no
Then
bigger
anyway.
compliment, is there, than a student that finds you and
Wants to
seeks
hang
you
out
out?
with you?
No.
I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm real proud of that, and it is very gratifying.
So then after Argonia,
hmm
what happened after that?
I went to Waukene, Kansas,
Okay.
which is out west, and I taught 6th and 7th grade math and 8th grade reading. It was a departmental area. And when I left there, that's when I went to Emporia and finished my degree.
Okay.
I also worked in Yellowstone National Park 6 summers.
Oh, wow. What did you do there?
I worked in the reservation department in the top floor, upper floor, Mammoth Hotel, and we made reservations for the whole park. And I did sent reservations out to the different locations for the next day, and it was wonderful. And Yellowstone National Park is a beautiful place.
What was your
And-
favorite thing about it?
Well, I'd love to go down to the Tetons too, because it is gorgeous.
Yeah.
My favorite thing about Yellowstone, well, I suppose everybody'd expect you to say the bears, but they weren't so favorite. They were always, if you stopped the car, if you're going down 5 miles from Mammoth down to Gardner, Montana, they would surround you.
Oh, I'd be a little scared.
Yeah.
So,
How did you end up at Yellowstone? What was your connection there?
well, when I was at Wyoming in summer school, I had heard about it and had thought that sounded like a really fun thing to do. So I applied, and a friend of mine applied. I got the job, she didn't. That was really too bad. So I worked for 5 summers.
Okay.
Because they just needed additional help, and you were off in the summers and could make
Well,
the move up there. And,
They couldn't open the park without it because they had too many visitors,
Yeah.
and people would call in and make the reservations for if they wanted to be at Old Faithful, or if they wanted to be at Lake, or if they wanted to be wherever they wanted to be, and we connected there and made the reservations for them at that place, and it was wonderful, fun time.
sounds like it. That would be unique. So all the Yellowstone was simultaneous with Waukene,
Yes. So well, I continued on.
and then where did you go after Waukene?
I took the year off and got my bachelor's degree.
Oh, and that's where
And
your connection
then-
with Wyoming was.
Yes. And then after I got my degree, I came to Hutchinson as a
Okay.
teacher.
And you were at Roosevelt then as a
I
teacher?
taught at McCandless,
McCandless.
first.
Okay.
I was principal at Roosevelt. So,
How long did you teach at McCandless?
let me see, 5 or 6 years, and then by then I had my degree to be a principal, and Roosevelt was becoming available, and I applied for it. Moved over there and was there 24 years.
And you retired from Roosevelt.
Yes, I did.
Looking back on all your different stops along the way, is there like a piece or a moment that really stands out, or a memory that kind of summarizes your teaching career?
Oh, every place was unique and different, and each place had something special about it. So, just to extrapolate one thing for the whole time, that'd be pretty difficult.
How is being a principal different from being in the classroom? What were the pros and cons of that?
Well, number one, I always liked kids a lot. So being a principal gave me interaction with kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade. Where a teacher, you're just in the 1 grade level. So that is a very big difference. If you really love to teach, if you're teaching, and hopefully as a principal you were teaching also, because you expected kids to behave in certain ways, and you did have to see some for discipline, and therefore you were teaching very strongly. And just the whole educational process was wonderful for me.
What year did you retire?
When did I retire? Well, let's see, about 14 years ago. 1990. I'd have to get out my pencil and paper and work on that.
14 years ago would be 2002.
Yeah.
Do you think it was in the 90s?
Yeah.
So maybe it's been
Yeah,
more
I'd
than
have to think
14
about
years.
that, because it doesn't really seem like it's just you were in education and then you weren't.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you always still feel like that was a great
Yeah.
part of my life.
Did the school close at the same time that you retired?
No, it did not.
It went on a little longer.
Mhm.
Okay.
Interesting. There was a woman principal ahead of me, and she retired, and then I took over the school, and then I was there 24 years as a principal, and so I had a lot of kids and a lot of parents, and I still have contact with quite a number of them.
Do you have any interesting stories about one of your former students that went on to do something really unique?
Well, every kid was unique, I thought, and some did a lot more things than others, and some have gone farther, and some have become principals and heads of school and that kind of thing. So in their own way, they were each unique enough to do good things.
Do you run into a lot locally?
Oh yeah, yes,
All the time?
yes.
I'm sure.
Well, I see a lot of them out here
Uh-huh.
too, at the club, and I have several parents that call and say, let's go to dinner, and just have some good friends from that period of my life.
And post-retirement, what have you been up to?
Well, I would say lots of things. I mean, I've played golf a lot, and all those kinds of things. I love to be an athlete, do outdoor things, and out here. I haven't played as much golf yet this year, but prior to now, played 2 or 3 times a week, and I like to play, pardon me?
That's a good life.
I like to play bridge, and I'm pretty open to most things. I do things at church and educationally, and friends are very important to me, and have been for a long time, and I've made some very excellent friends.
Served on the Community Foundation board,
Yes.
several of our committees for 6 years.
Right.
That's a long time.
Yeah,
2 terms?
it's a big commitment. Yeah.
So, as far as community organizations go, where do your passions lie other than education?
I guess I'd have to say church probably.
Where do you attend church?
Grace Episcopal.
Oh, on Main there.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful church.
Yeah.
And I guess let's move into the Legacy Society piece just a little bit. It's just a few years old, correct?
Uh-huh.
The Legacy Society. Yeah. And when did you become aware that this was a way you could contribute to the Community Foundation?
Well, I kind of got in it by accident, wouldn't you say, when I was on the committee, and I've always felt that you should give back to where you are. So, and that's important to me, and I just think that if you go through life and you have a good experience and all things are great, then you should share that or see to it that other people have the same opportunity. So, kind of forever, to answer your question.
So, you were on the committee that helped design this? Is that what I'm hearing? Or?
Design what?
The Legacy Society?
Oh, well, I don't.
You're on the board.
Yeah,
You're on the
but
board at the
So
time.
when this was starting to be a part of our focus.
I talked about it. I mean, I was involved
Yeah.
in the discussion.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
I'd say she was right there at that point where the Community Foundation board was starting to figure out that this wasn't just about grant making, that we needed to inspire people to give back. We didn't have to inspire Pat. She already knew she wanted to do that, but you would have been part of those conversations.
Right.
And I'm trying to remember how that.
You just do things because you want to do something that's good for everyone. I mean, if you don't give back, then how does anything go on? It doesn't, and it won't. So it just depends on what a good experience you had, and I had a good experience, and so that was obviously what you needed to do.
Well, those screens on it, wherever those things are, that's.
And I don't know if Bailey knows this, but you met with John Griffin, didn't you?
Yes.
I don't think I told you that. but-
No, Can you tell me a little bit more about that experience?
Like in what way?
Well, I think what we are always looking to communicate out, are people that have gone through that process and, what they felt was valuable about it, what they learned from it, because I think there's some hesitation with people to meet with him because they, are worried he's going to try to lure them in one way or another, and that, he might not have their best interest in mind. They might have the Community Foundation since he kind of represents them. And I think that those are often, clearly those are misconceptions. And so anything that we could say to somebody who might be considering it but maybe on the fence about it that would encourage
Well, I
them.
think that when you have an opportunity to be exposed to someone who is intelligent and has things to offer to you or the community or whatever you're connecting with, that if you don't take the opportunity, you miss out on a lot in life. And so
I think that's what we're gonna do. I'll do that right now.
I think people ought to try more things than they do.
In fact, that's a lot better off.
That's just my opinion about that, but really, I think that no matter who it is, you can learn from them. And it was a good experience, and he is a very knowledgeable person. And if you have the opportunity to be connected with him and to discuss things with him, you should, because you're going to learn from him.
Was it John who introduced the idea of the charitable gift annuity to you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was an additional tool
Right.
in that. I don't know that we have to speak to the specifics of that, but
Well, it's just like I said,
Joel's coming with several.
you can learn from every experience. And if you don't avail yourself of that, then you're pretty much dead on the vine. I mean, if people don't ever expand their knowledge, what do they have?
nothing.
That's it.
What else should we know about you?
I don't know. That's probably way more than you should have.
You had one brother, Dean.
2 sisters, one, excuse me, one 10 years older, one 5 years older. They were married, and my oldest sister had 2 children, a boy and a girl. Her son died of cancer last year, and her daughter lives out in Washington State. My other sister had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. Her daughter lives in Winfield, and one son lives in Russell, and so anything else about my family? My father worked for Shell Oil Company for 37 years, and during the war, my mother worked at Boeing. I mean, about everybody from my little town of Oxford went to Wichita to work. I mean, they needed people because all the men were gone.
Yep.
So that was an exciting experience.
Was your father in the military?
No, just with Shell Oil, and so.
What was life like in your house?
Well, for one thing, not as much as you think, because the 2 sisters were so much older than Dean and me. 10 years and 5 years.
Yeah.
So they were married and gone.
And then you 2 are pretty close in age.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And very close in reality.
Yeah.
Too. And so 14 months apart.
Yeah. Practically twins.
Yes. A lot of people thought we were when we were growing up. They'd see us and they'd say, well, are you 2 twins? No, we're not. But we took care of each other, looked after each other. So
Are your sisters living?
I'm the only one left in my family.
I'm sorry.
Sisters, their husbands, my brother, and my parents. Everybody is gone. I'll tell you this, it's a lonesome feeling.
Yeah.
But,
And his nieces and nephews, and great nieces and nephews.
mhm,
Yeah.
right. And they're good to call and check on me. In fact, one called a couple days ago and said, just checking in, Aunt Pat, I hope you're okay. I didn't happen to be home, but when I got
On your
home and I
machine.
called, where have you been?
Well, now you're the family matriarch. You might have always been. I don't know.
Who knows? You never know.
Well, it sounds like you've been a very good friend throughout your life, just based on all the people that are still connected after all these years and how close you are with your family.
Sure.
It's very cool. What else, Aubrey?
No, I think it's a great story.
Do you really?
So, yeah, I do. And I've heard it before, and I still think it's great.
And I know, I'm glad we're going to have the audio file
Yeah.
forever, keeping the records. And just to be transparent about the annual report, not everything will probably make it, but I think as far as you being a part of the Community Foundation, these are pieces of information that we may want to rely on for a number of years. So
Mm-hmm. Good.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll capture it. You know this how the annual report goes. We get these great stories, and then you have very little space to put anything in there.
Sure. Yeah.
But I'd like to have somebody transcribe this and put it together so that we've got the whole thing.
Oh, that'd be
So.
very flattering.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important.
Mm-hmm.
You're important to this community, and so we want to make sure we have the story.
I hope you weren't bored.
I wasn't bored. I love this. I love people's histories. There's something through the National Library in D.C. where people can tell their stories and then post them. And my aunt teaches 8th grade reading and literature in Kansas City, and she had all of her students post their stories and or record a family member. And so now she's having like my grandparents tell their stories and they're posting it to that. So maybe that's something we could consider for you.
Well, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
I mean, that's wonderful that she's doing that.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. And what I loved about it is I learned things about my grandparents through their interview that I never knew.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my father's parents ran in the strip in Oklahoma and staked out their land.
So did my family. Well, my family's from Caldwell, which is not far from Oxford.
No,
So,
but this was in Billings, Oklahoma, where
Okay.
they did that.
Okay.
And that's, you know,
so where did they go for their registration? Did they go to Caldwell before the Cherokee Strip?
they were down in pretty much Oklahoma. Both parents, my parents grew up in Oklahoma, so they were down there from way long time.
Such an interesting time period.
hmm When you think about running in a race to stake out your land, you can hardly conceive of that.
No.
No, I can't.
I mean, really, it's just
Yeah.
almost unreal.
Yeah.
Is that land still in your family?
It was up until probably 20 years ago, maybe. Whenever, if I'm down there, we go by it. It's just, here's the town of Billings, and it was just a mile south and a quarter east, so it was almost visible from town. And
So neat.
it, you know, it's really interesting. I can't imagine everybody lining up and then going as fast as they can to get to where they want to stake out.
There's a great museum about it in Caldwell. I just think it's really neat. Have you seen the movie Far and Away?
No, I haven't.
It's about the Irish coming over and participating in the land rush, but it kind of gives you a visual.
Yeah, I knew I'd seen a movie before that gives me the visual of it. I don't know if it's correct or not, it's my visual. It
Yeah.
may have been that movie.
My mother's side of the house were Irish. My dad's side of the house was English. So, and we always thought that they were pretty, you know, staunch.
So Lemmons is your Irish name. Lemmons is your English name. What was your family's Irish name?
Bryant.
Bryant. I love this stuff.
Yep. And Bryant and Lemmon.